hey you, be an asshole, but do heroic things. Hey Marvel fans, welcome to my channel. I'm Trey Guillotine, and today I'm breaking down the idea of embracing your anti-hero, the new catchphrase for the Venom film that's coming out sometime this year. Remember, if you like this video, to give it a thumbs up and share it around so others can join in the conversation. Let's geek out. So just right off the bat, let's admit that this movie, Venom, does not look like a good movie. It looks like garbage. Literally, like Venom in the trailer that they've shown, Venom looks like a stunt actor who just has black garbage bags taped to his body. It looks terrible. And even the pronunciation of symbiote, that sounds dumb. Everything I've seen of this movie, it doesn't look like a good movie. I hate to say it, Tom Hardy is a really great actor, and I think Venom can be a really great character and a really great villain in Marvel, but this movie it seems to have missed many of the points of making a Venom movie, especially since they're going the route of portraying Venom as kind of the anti-hero, which of course they say embrace your anti-hero. But even the poster itself, like it's seen on the internet, it looks like 2 glasses of milk being poured for the eyes of Venom. Like, this doesn't look like a good movie. And what I want to focus on, aside from it just not being a good movie, and hey, look, I'm willing to admit that I'm basing this all on the teasers and trailers they've shown of Venom. Maybe I'll go see the movie and it'll be just the best Marvel movie ever, but I'm not getting my hopes up on that, and especially that they're focusing on making Venom the anti-hero. Venom, in my opinion, makes a really good villain, and that's the kind of movie I want to see. I want to see a movie about a villain being a villain. It seems like it seems like movie studios are really afraid to do a truly villain-centered movie, and I think that a Venom movie would have been a really good villain-centered movie, especially if it was about like Eddie Brock, who like attracts the symbiote, and then like the entire movie is basically him like fighting against the symbiote, and the symbiote is basically the monster of the movie, and in the end the monster wins. He becomes Venom. That would be a really good Venom movie where Venom is the villain, Venom is the threat, Venom is the monster, and Eddie Brock, for lack of another hero, who I've always seen Eddie Brock as kind of a jackass, he would be the protagonist with Venom being the villain. But that's not the movie we're getting. The movie we're getting is about Eddie Brock. He gets the symbiote and he's trying to control the symbiote to be a kind of hero, or rather an anti-hero, which is what Sony seems to be focusing on when it comes to Venom. They even have the catchphrase, embrace your anti-hero. So let's break down what an anti-hero actually is. Looking up the actual definition of an anti-hero, it is a hero who lacks conventional heroic qualities, but is, for all intents and purposes, still the hero. Without them in the mix, or without them leading the story, the bad guy, the quote-unquote bad guy, would succeed. Which there are plenty of examples of really strong anti-hero characters, especially in Marvel. Deadpool, for the movie that just came out, Deadpool is an excellent example of an anti-hero. He's crazy, he's violent, he's vulgar, he's very bloody, he kind of shifts between bad and good. Like, there's no set thing, but still, for all intents and purposes, he is still considered the hero of the story, even if he does like hit those kind of heroic quality moments at the end of both of his movies. He's still very much an anti-hero. Another one is Wolverine. Staying in that X-Men sphere of characters is Wolverine, very much an anti-hero. He's still a big hero in the X-Men, but he's gruff, he's angry, he's violent, he's probably an alcoholic. Like, he's not a quote-unquote stable or good person, but he's still he's a good person, but he's a very angry person. Like, he's not someone you would traditionally be friends with, that you would see as like, wow, that's a good dude. Logan's a good dude. No, Logan's not that good of a dude. He's pretty rough. He's very rough around the edges. He's very antisocial. He's not the conventional hero that you usually look to, but he's still a hero. Staying in Marvel, Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones is a huge, solid example of an anti-hero. Yes, she is a hero. She does heroic things. She's also very distant from the people who care about her and that she cares about. She's very antisocial. She's very selfish and a little bit self-centered. And she swears worse than a sailor and drinks even more than a sailor. Like, she is not a great individual as a person, but she still comes out as a hero, and that's not how. And I mean, look at the marketing for Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones was never marketed as this is the new anti-hero. This is a person that she is a hero. She's still heroic, but she's marketed as be a badass, no filter, fight like a woman. She is very much an anti-hero because of her other character traits that are less than heroic. Finally, another huge anti-hero that I don't think we can talk about Marvel anti-heroes without mentioning this is the Punisher. The Punisher, yes, is a hero and the quote-unquote good guy for the most part, but he is still a murderer. He is still a murderer. Hell, he's borderline terrorist. He's mad lone gunman taking down bad guys. So yes, he is shooting bad guys. He's shooting people that the rest of the majority of society would consider to be the bad guys. You know, drug dealers, rapists, other murderers and terrorists. He takes out these guys, but he's still not that heroic of a person. He's very violent. He's very crass. He's, again, very antisocial, very distant from anyone who cares about him or he cares about. He's not a great person, but he's still a great solid hero, which he's just an excellent example of an anti-hero. The thing that all of these people have in common is they step up when they need to be that hero, but personality-wise is where they differ from being considered a true hero and are considered more of an anti-hero. If you want to look at the spectrum, especially if you're just focusing on Marvel, if you want to look at the spectrum of hero to anti-hero, look at Captain America as being the ideal representation of what it is to be a true hero. He's very heroic, he's very stalwart, he's very, fighting for justice and good things. He's the iconic, he is what you think of when you think of the word hero. And on the other end of the spectrum would be the Punisher, the literal opposite end of Captain America. Even if they do share a lot of the same ideals, between Steve Rogers and Frank Castle, they are more different than night and day. If you want to look at the spectrum, that is a spectrum you need to look at when comparing levels of hero to anti-hero. Steve Rogers, Captain America, Frank Castle, Punisher. The thing that makes all of these characters anti-hero are not their heroic actions, but instead it's their personality. And these characters have these personalities because of specific things, especially with Jessica Jones. She was always kind of a very snarky, sarcastic person growing up. That's just who she was. That was her personality. But going through her life, of the trauma she's endured from losing her family, from being kidnapped and tortured and raped, tortured and raped by Kilgrave, all of these things have molded her into a very antisocial character. She drinks to deal with her problems. She suppresses a lot of her issues. She uses alcohol and sex to deal with her problems. She distances herself from anyone who cares about her. She's a very angry person. She's not, quote unquote, a good person. Not that saying she's a bad person, but she definitely has a lot of issues, a lot of it stemming from the fact and how she got PTSD. And because of that, that makes her an anti-hero, that in the end, when it matters, she steps up as the hero. But because of the things she's gone through, it makes her a very anti-hero type of personality. So whenever the Venom marketing says to embrace your anti-hero, I really feel like it's missing the point of what makes really good anti-heroes. It kind of sounds like they're telling you, hey, you, be an asshole, but do heroic things, because that's basically what an anti-hero is. It's an asshole who does heroic things, and I really feel like that misses the mark of what creates a good anti-hero. It sounds a lot like in a Sony boardroom they were looking at the recent successful TV shows, superhero TV shows and movies. I was like, oh wow, these anti-hero characters are really popular, like Jessica Jones and Punisher and Wolverine. These are really popular characters. What makes them popular? And they just wrote anti-hero on a board and circled it, and that's all they focused on. Like, we're going to make an anti-hero. And they didn't actually do any research of what makes these characters who are anti-heroes good characters. So it just seems like they've missed the point of what makes an anti-hero, that it's still, they're doing these heroic things, but it's these very flawed and very broken characters that make them a good anti-hero, that makes them a good character. It's not the fact that they're being labeled as anti-hero. They're not, they're not marketing Punisher or Jessica Jones as specifically the new anti-hero, and that's the cool thing to be, because anti-hero, it's cool, it's grungy, it's a badass. No, being a badass is part of what makes these characters who they are, but it's not specifically what makes them the anti-hero. What makes them the anti-hero is their flaws, who they are very flawed. That's another thing all of these different anti-heroes have in common, is that they are very flawed. So to try to tell someone to aspire to be an anti-hero isn't something you should be telling people to do. You shouldn't be saying, like, yeah, it's cool to be an anti-hero. Jessica Jones doesn't wake up and say, I'm going to be an anti-hero. I'm going to aspire to be an anti-hero. Sorry. I'm going to aspire to be an anti-hero. It's the fact that they step up to the heroic situations and save the day as the good guy, but the other 95% of the time, they're pretty much assholes because of the things they've gone through, because of what the experiences they've had that make them the very antisocial, very angry, very distant characters that they are. Which, if you want an excellent example of a character aspiring to be the anti-hero, look at Han Solo in the most recent Solo movie, where he's trying to be the badass, he's trying to be the crook and the criminal, but he's still like the good guy. He still feels like he's the good guy, and he does have anti-hero qualities. He does have those qualities of being a criminal, of shooting first, of looking out for himself, but he's still the good guy. He's still looking out for other people in the Solo movie. That's an excellent example of someone aspiring to be the anti-hero, that despite who they are, they're trying to be someone they're not. They're trying to be the gruff badass that they're just not, at least in the Solo movie. Yes, Han Solo does turn out to be the gruff badass in later movies, but in the very beginning of his career, Han Solo, in the Solo movie, he's that plucky kid who's trying to be the badass, who's trying to be an anti-hero, but he's not. He's very much the hero, and he's very much the good guy. He has the good guy qualities, whereas anti-heroes usually don't. Hell, you could argue that Tony Stark would be an excellent example of an anti-hero, that yes, that while he does do heroic things and he does save the day, he's very self-centered, he's very, like, Tony Stark is both the planet and his own orbit. That is Tony Stark. He orbits around himself, and that's essentially what he is as a character. And he's grown and he's developed into a much more heroic and considerate hero, but for the most part, Tony Stark is kind of all about Tony Stark. And those little qualities make him more of an anti-hero. He's not the best example of an anti-hero, but you could argue that Tony Stark is an anti-hero. And that's the character that they're trying to make Venom into in this Venom film. And I feel like, at least in the marketing, they're really missing the point of what makes a good anti-hero. It's not someone that gets out of bed and says, I'm going to be an anti-hero. That's the kind of superhero I'm going to be. It's someone who has those flaws, who has those flawed personality traits of distancing themselves from people, of kind of being a loner, of being a little angry at people, but still stepping up to meet those heroic requirements of being the good guy. Jessica Jones, Punisher, Wolverine don't wake up saying, I'm going to be an asshole today. They just kind of are assholes. But they step up when the moment calls for them to be heroes. And that's what makes an anti-hero. Not the fact that they decide that they want to be an anti-hero. It's their flawed personalities and their flawed characters that make them heroes, that make them the anti while they go and do heroic things in their stories. So saying to embrace your anti-hero, they're basically telling people to be an asshole while saving the day. What do you think of the idea about embracing your anti-hero? Let me know in the comments or follow me on all the internets. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it around so others can join in the conversation. If you want to see my written reviews of Marvel TV shows and movies, go to www.treyguillotine.com and subscribe to my channel to geek out some more. Thanks for watching and have fun.